We are going live, okay? So you can start.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth day of Catalyst Chats. Catalyst Chats is a joint initiative of Innovation and Entrepreneur Development Center IEDC and Institution Innovation Council of MBCET. The Catalyst Chats bring together leaders, influencers, innovators, and entrepreneurs in a common platform to share their stories, success, as well as failures. But our aim is to grab this essential mindset and motivation to stay relevant in this future world. We hope and believe that it would be an inspiration for the young, beautiful minds that is out there. And this is all about Catalyst Chats. Now, let me introduce myself. I myself, Joseph John Panikar, Chief Marketing Officer of IEDC, and I will be your host for today's event. I hope you all have a very lovely morning because for next few minutes we are going to experience a high dosage of motivation and inspiration from a very prominent speaker. Now let's all warmly welcome the speaker of the day, Dr. Surendran. Dr. Arun Surendran is a strategic director and the principal of Trinity College of Engineering, Trivandrum, where he pioneered and initiated the faculty entrepreneurship. He holds his master's and doctorate in aerospace engineering from Texas A&M University after his BTech from IIT Bombay. He was awarded with the prestigious Upright Outstanding International Students Award, which is the highest award given by the Texas A&M University at any international students. He has authored two books. He has published his first collection of his poems and produced a documentary. He's a prominent advisor for many government organizations and companies. So, in short, he's a mentor, he's an entrepreneur, he's an author, an engineer, and of course, a wonderful human being. Now, it's my privilege and honor to welcome Dr. Arun to the Catalyst Chats. Now, before moving forward with the session, I would like to remind all the audience and the viewers out there, you have a privilege to ask questions. Now, the question is, how do you do that? Just post your questions in the YouTube comment boxes or chat box, and we will get back to you. That is, we analyze whether it's a relevant question or not, and we'll ask that directly to Dr. Arun. So, without wasting much time, I'm handovering my platform to Dr. Arun. Sir, the time is yours.
Thank you, Joseph. I hope I am audible and visible to everybody. If I can get a thumbs up from the team that I am able to view back. Yes, okay. So thank you, Mar Baselios IEDC team, Catalyst, for having me. I'm aware that I'm standing between all of you and your lunch break, and which is supposed to be probably not a very good time to discuss very serious aspects. I think you might have all heard the research that in US, considerable percentage of parole requests are denied right before the lunch break by the judges, and a very high percentage is awarded right after the lunch break. So the mindset is very important. But I'm also aware, being someone who is very closely associated with college students, that 12 o'clock is probably like the breakfast time at this point in the corona crisis. So it looks like most of you just had your breakfast, woke up and came in. So let's get going. So uh, thank you, Joseph, for reading out that wonderful profile. Actually, none of it matters because Corona has been a great equalizer for all of us, and it has brought us all to the bottom of the learning ladder, which is a wonderful place to be. Feel very childish again. And today, the topic that Arun has assigned to me is lifelong learning for entrepreneurs. So it's a wonderful topic. Now, Homo sapiens, all of us are familiar, and all of us claim to be part of that species, despite whichever way we behave. And recently, the book came out, Homo Deus, right, where the man is getting into the God's shoes. There is a similar term called Homo Descens, Descensus or Descens, which is the learning man, which is something that I would like to believe that I belong to that species, to learn all the time. And I think even if you look at our physiological evolution, we are a species that comes to this world utterly helpless and unprepared. A lot of our brain gets built with the nurture stage. Of course, that's a big debate of nature versus nurture. It's true that genes and how we are born does have a quite a good significance about our ability to pick up things from the environment around us. But a bulk of our learning does happen in the environment. And I think with this group of people who are mostly from the colleges, there will be a consensus that schools and colleges actually destroy any kind of learning tendencies that we have. There is absolutely no help that we get through our 12 to 14 years of schooling and then 4 years of BTech or 3 years of graduation. What actually happens is whatever passion the student might have had for learning and studies is very religiously and methodically eradicated from the brain. So that people come out usually in interviews very proud to say that they don't ever have to read any book again. They don't have to ever sit in an examination again. Finally, I have escaped this horrible thing called learning and I can start doing my job, whatever is the nice job. Unfortunate as it may, it allows us, all of us, to look at that experience and learn very specifically what exactly is it that we lost. I apologize for the cylinder sounds if they are coming. This is part of the corona crisis. Gas is being delivered at home. Hopefully they'll go away, but when they go, there'll be the auto rickshaw sound as well. There it comes. So please wait for a few seconds as they pass. Anyway, so the learning experience, right? Let me gradually go through a list of things which are absolutely important for learning as a human being, but which have been indoctrinated or methodically removed from our system, our relationship with it. First is valuing failure, right? Error correction is a very important criteria for the brain to learn. Unless it makes an error, it's unaware whether the prediction it has made, the activity it has done is correct. All of this is coming from John Dewey having that wonderful statement. Dewey was a great educator and a social reformer, and he said, you cannot but learn when you are doing something, and it is only by doing that you learn. So whatever it is that you do, even if you are sitting in front of Netflix for 10 hours, there is a learning that happens there, which may not be very productive for the society's sense, but there is something because you are actually doing something. When you are thinking, you are doing something, and whatever it is that you are doing, there is a learning. And if you want to learn something, you need to do it. And I think everybody who has just been through interviews or campus selection will know that you went somewhere and said, I know Python, and they asked you, what did you do in Python? I didn't do anything. I know the basics. I know the fundamentals, which is the standard answer we get. Whereas we are looking for competence of actually having done something. Electronics, have you done anything with Arduino? Can you show me a project that you did? Because if you did something, I know you learned something. But the moment you do something, there will be hundreds of things that will go wrong. And when things go wrong, we get this psychological cringe of our own competence being destroyed, our beautiful self-image falling apart, and so on. And there is nothing in the system that helps us overcome this, right? As kids, as babies, we do not mind failing at all. Have you wondered why? How we learn to walk, to talk, the kind of stupid sounds we made, which we thought was wonderful language that we were speaking. And then the bicycle riding, which is a classic example of only by failure that you will learn. You have to fall down from the bike. That's when the learning happens. So in all those environments, first of all, you'll realize that failure was encouraged. Immediately your parents or uncles or aunts, whoever was there, they were there to motivate you to keep trying. Nobody said, no, I give you 80 for whatever walk you did now try for 85. That doesn't happen. So there is no quantitative evaluation. They just want you to get better. So that error correction, somehow through schooling and college, when we come, we develop this deep-seated fear of failure. So the moment you are asked, why don't you start up something? In fact, I was sitting in another workshop with most of Trinity students and alumni and a few members and a few aspiring entrepreneurs before coming here. I would like to mention two things in that regard, but let me just finish this fear of failure thing. Okay, the biggest discussion there is, how can we reduce the risk? It's a big risk to start a business. I don't want to risk it now because Corona is there. Whenever this word risk comes along, please think about it. What is the biggest risk at this point? Is it simply freezing and staying put at your home doing nothing? or actually trying to do as many things as possible because we have no idea what is going to happen if we stay put like this, which is the easiest way to get killed. If you have ever shown a light on a poor animal at night, you will understand that the freezing is the thing that happens first. If it's a centipede, millipede, or something, you touch it, the moment you touch it, it freezes. It's one of the basic instinct that is there. When there is danger, freeze. Pretend you are dead. You are no longer moving, which is what most of us try to do the moment a lot of opportunities which look like crisis has come along. We want to freeze. The moment that somebody says, why don't you start a business on this? All this fear has made me frozen. I don't want to try. There's so many things can go wrong, right? So that's there. We need to slowly habituate how we approach failure. It's very, very important. One of the best ways is to read all the motivational guides of people who actually failed, and then succeeded. But it's very important that we also realize their circumstances were very different. And for us, failures might look like something that is totally different from how their failures looked. So let's decide that we will never call anything as a failure. In fact, CBSE is trying to do that. CBSE is going to say, we'll say compulsory repeat. And I think KTU also, it will be much better if Kerala Technological University simply says, try again at the end of exam. Instead of just saying you failed, you have supply, you are 5 supply, 24 supply. See, those are all developing a kind of stigma. Instead, just say, keep trying. In fact, we now have research that shows that the resubmit button is the greatest invention of online learning, right? If you know that you can resubmit, then eventually you can get mastery. Nobody is going to say your life is going to be decided by this 3-hour examination done at some point. So when we are thinking of lifelong learning, for us, failures are simply attempts at learning. That's all. Not the big, the full form of fail being something else or anything, but just till we try something, we are not going to learn anything. If we try something, things will go wrong. And this is the month of Karkadagam. Many of you might be learning or reading Ramayanam at your home. It might be being read. Look at the episode of how Bali gets killed by Lord Ram, right? Sugrivan, they decide that, okay, this can be done. It can be done very easily. Ram proves his might and power and everything. And then off Sugrivan goes to fight Bali, and nothing, no arrow comes from Ram. Because only when they actually took that step, he realized that I cannot distinguish between these two people. I cannot shoot that arrow. When you start doing experiments, immediately you will realize that 101 things you didn't think about, they'll start going wrong. So failure is not a word we want to use. We just look at it as attempts that we do. The second thing is we are told to keep on focusing on this product. What's the outcome? How much is the marks you got? How does the project look in the end? In fact, with the digital medium, that's one of the troubles that I face, right? Earlier, when we were writing in books with pen, we would be writing, cutting, writing. So at the end of the day, even if you wrote just a 5-line poem, it will look like, oh my God, I attempted for 3 hours before I came up with these 5 lines. Now I just simply delete. I would have been telling somebody that, okay, I'm going to put the entire day in it. And at the end of the day, I send them 5 lines and they say, this is what that hardly took him 1 minute to do this. But the process, somehow we are hiding it. It's part of the marketing spiel as well. We like to project people as superhuman. We like to say that they never failed, cried. Now the other side is also developing, where everybody is being portrayed as a big failure who suddenly succeeded because they read this particular motivational book or saw this video and this changed their life. Whatever it is, on either side, there is a marketing that's going on. What we need to understand is that process, I don't want to call it process, because process again looks like something fixed and you have to go through with this checklist and stuff. Look at it as a journey. You're on a journey. There is a destination, but the view from there is ultimately up to you. When you get there, is it cloudy? Is it rainy? Is it beautiful, shiny? It's all dependent on you. When you want to take a break, when you want to sit down, who all comes along in your journey, who gets dropped off, somebody falls off the cliff, it doesn't matter. That is part of the journey. It will be your own journey. So learn to look at the learning process as something like this. This again, we don't teach in schools. So the first thing is failure we don't teach. We actually teach the opposite of how to look at it. Secondly, we don't allow you to look at something as your own journey, right? Everybody is treated for an average syllabus with an average exam, and then you are graded as you are above average or below average. There is nothing given to this person, that person, particularly. Whereas we have custom-made coffee of so many types at Starbucks. Where is the custom-made syllabus and the custom-made exam when we need it, which is the most important thing. I'll come to that a bit later about how this could be the greatest fallout of online education. Now, When we undertake the journey, we become extra careful, right? We will ask more questions than our worry about answers. When we are on the journey, we want to make sure we avoid dangers. We want to make sure we don't know how to proceed at some point, but we don't mind asking. And very carefully, this whole idea that answers are superior to questions has been inculcated in us, because questions are very dangerous at a political level, at a scientific level, at an ideological level. If somebody starts questioning, then there is a lot of problems for people who are comfortable with the current status quo. So it's a beautiful system of indoctrination, but that has to change if you're an entrepreneur, because you need to have valuable information. It not just for innovating something where you ask why not do this way, or how can we do this better or more efficient, but even as a business owner, you have to ask very deep, hurtful questions at some point, so that the information can save the business or ruin the business. We can't run away. And your smartness is dependent on kind of open questions that you ask. So that's the second thing that I want you to remember as a journey, and as questioning being more important than answers. The third one is, we are not told to play to our strength, right? The focus is always on what we are weak at. Nobody will ask you, okay, you got A plus in 4 subjects. So what happened to the other 2 subjects? You got a B. Okay, how can we fix this? Can you go for tuition? So our attempt is to make everybody an average. Nobody is saying, okay, forget about those 2 subjects. Let's go make you a grandmaster of the 4 that you are really good at. But once you get into entrepreneurship, once you're out of the system, that's what you need to play at, right? If you're not really good at something, don't waste too much time on that. Probably you're not good at it because you never spent time on it, because you never got interested in it, because somebody who introduced it to you was not very good, which is ultimately the case. Okay, in the long run, all of us will come across people who absolutely love things which we absolutely hate. And then we will think, how can this person like power electronics so much that he dedicated his life to it? He's building this and that. And then you will think, who taught me power electronics? Oh my, it was introduced to me as the worst possible thing that can happen, which will kill me unless I buy hard 6 hours a day and do this and do that. That's what happened. This is true for English literature. This is true for music. Every time when your first attempts were made, was that person with you a genuinely good teacher and mentor? It would have made fantastic difference to you. So when you get into business also, think of the people you are going to keep close to yourself. Are they encouraging? Is your betterment really to it? And that's the second thing I wanted to mention. Look, here I can see on the Zoom window around 7, 8 other people, right? This cannot be. And always our mistake is we believe that one to many is how learning will work. It doesn't work. Learning is always many to one. So I am getting feedback from you. I'll get feedback from you later at the end of this talk as well. That's my learning. That's the only true learning happening here. You guys will take away one tidbit here, one thing there, something from here and there. But this we have to understand. It has to be many people coming and telling us many different things. And that's how we learned in childhood. So many people gave us inputs. It was so valuable. And now we know from research also that in education, the single greatest factor that can improve learning in a school or a college is the collective teachers' efficiency. The collective, what gets said in the staff room, the teamwork of the faculty is important, because those many pairs of eyes are going to look at somebody together. And that creates a wonderful all-round picture that can help that person learn. So play to your strength, okay? And play is a very important word, which is another word which we have been told to hate, as it is not serious. This is something which means you're taking your life frivolously, you are not taking your responsibility seriously. But actually, the best learning we have all done is through play. And now there is the other big field coming up called gamification, which we are trying to gamify everything and convey it. Essentially, it is you have to play with confidence. You have to realize that this thing is not going to break and ruin or hurt somebody, but I need to be confident enough to go there and toggle with it. Can I practice with it? That's not a tiring thing. When have you ever seen a bunch of kids say they have had enough of playing? They will never say that. They will be thirsty and hungry, which means they'll recharge and go away. That happens. But look at what happens at the end of 10 minutes of any online class. Why does that happen? Because there is no amount of play coming in, right? We are packaging it in a different fashion. So when you are an entrepreneur, you are running the show, you are heading the team. You get to take these wonderful opportunities and play with them. Can we try this? Can we try that? Fail fast. Forget about failing. Attempt fast. Get the feedback fast and start proceeding from there. So that's another thing. Playing must come back to your life. It's very, very important that it's mentally joyous, it's physically engaging. There's a lot about embodied learning that is coming right now from research, that the body is very important about how things are imbibed into us, systems. Now, coming to the fourth point, reflection and self-assessment, right? Throughout the entire education system, we are told that somebody else is going to assess you. An anonymous God-like figure will tell you how you performed. That's it. That person has absolutely no clue and should not have any clue. That is also what the system says. Whoever taught you doesn't matter. There will be a third party sitting somewhere who will tell you how good you are, because we set a standardized exam which everybody should take, millions of people from everywhere, so that we can grade them and rank them. These are all methods by which the society will get ahead. It has nothing to do with learning. These are all systems we evolved at some point for social harmony, maintenance, and control, and so on. So nowhere in the education system are you taught how to self-reflect, how to stop doing things. We are told if you're not doing something, then you are actually wasting everybody's time. You are not having a productive life. We get into this habit of somehow I have to do this, do that. What is my timetable from 11 to 11:30, 11:45, go here, 12 o'clock, this call, that call. That is somehow supposed to give us a lot of satisfaction. Nowhere are we sitting and thinking, what's the point? Did I learn something from this? Right? What would be better for me if I do? I'm not talking about I'm playing PUBG, something which I really enjoy, and therefore I am reflecting. No. That is not self-reflection. Self-reflection is you with yourself wondering where your life is going. What have you become? What is your identity? Is it something constructed by other people? How many impossibles have you accepted? Right? People will tell you, you are not good for this, that thing is impossible. How many such belief systems? If anything, education, as Dan Kahneman said, what's the purpose of education? It is to change your beliefs. The capacity should be developed, that you should analyze, oh, what are my beliefs? Arun Surendran, is this, that. Really? No. Okay. Fine. So that questioning of your own self-reflection, at the end of the day, can I do a journal and then look at my own wonderful attempts for the day? This is needed. What can I do better? Can things be improved? So this is essential always, to take a break, relax, look at where things are going. That's what will give you the big picture. And one last point, which none of the education system now says it's going to encourage, is collaborative learning. Look at everything as a team, right? Right now, the only teamwork is copying, which happens beautifully. Somebody writes a note, everybody has the same beautiful notes. Even the teachers are encouraging photocopying, xeroxing. This is what we call collaborative learning. But can I understand that I am very good at being the goalkeeper, so I'll stay as the goalkeeper? Forward playing is his job. The defenders are these two guys. Let them do it. I am not going to say, can I be all this in the same team? And I don't look at other people as people. See, I'm not trained to look at other people as some people who can teach me. We say namaste when we meet everybody, but that's supposed to come from very deep within culturally, that I'm going to learn something from you, right? So I look at all those pictures of Upanishad with the guru sitting and many students sitting around him as an other way around understanding. Actually, they are all teaching the guru how better to become a better teacher. What are the original thought models that they have brought along, which might make him wonder at how he has led his life. So collaborative learning is the last thing that not the last thing, one of the final points I want to mention about how to go about as an entrepreneur. Learn from as many people as possible, as many subjects as possible, because we are trying to develop something that is called either the T personality, or if you are really, really good, then it'll be like the pi personality. So the T personality means I am very, very deep and specialized in one area, but I have widespread interests at the top. Pi means I get to do it in two fields. In my case, I am more of a pi guy because I have aerospace and education as things which I am very deeply interested and I play with all the time. But I'm interested in everything starting from movie making and book writing and whatever you can think of, Zoom, what happens to people when they do something. Curiosity. So keep this in mind, and all these are you might have lost it because you were a very good student in school. All these you might have forgotten, but I am here to remind you, please recapture all these correct human natural instincts so that now you can succeed as an entrepreneur, you can be a leader, and you can help people with a similar attitude to succeed. Now, with that mentioned, these are all part of Kolb's experiential learning and how we look at concrete experiences and then start playing with them. I would like to give a very small thumb rule of how to go about, okay, which is something I use. So this is a personal stuff. And since to make it easy to learn, I have an acronym. It's come to learning, COME. Okay. So my C stands for continuity. It's very difficult for me to learn something if it's totally fresh. Like I have no clue where to begin. So I need some kind of continuity in my mind about where to start this. And continuity means I can start situating this new knowledge somewhere in my existing brain and start building from there. So how can you get it? If it's a totally fresh subject, you will find somebody who has managed to situate it nicely. And you can start with your relationship with that person. So aim for continuity in your learning so that you're building up as you go along. The O in come stands for ask open-ended questions. Open-ended. Please realize there are no closed answers. Ask only things like why, how, who, and then realize that these answers should lead you to, the answers when you find them should lead you to more questions, more and more questions. We should only be in love with questioning, not with answers. Look for them, ask them. Please hug people who ask so many questions. I have a nephew, I think 15 questions per hour. Wonderful, he's 8 years old. But now the teacher has started telling all of them in that age group that they are asking so many questions, you are disturbance in class. So I expect by the time he's a teenager, there'll be 0 questions and a lot of clear understanding of the world, which will change when he becomes 25, 26 or something. But that's the way we progress. So O is for open questions. M is for meaningfulness, right? Meaning is something you construct in your brain. Thomas Sowell famously said, it does not matter what the teacher does in class. The only thing that truly matters is what is going on inside the brain of the student, what is being constructed there, because that's the future. So M is what meaning you are making. It can be multimodal. It can be something that you can manipulate. It comes back to, again, that playing with this thing, the new concept, the new software, the new hardware, the new process that you found, the new friendship that you found. You make meaning out of it. And E is for empowering, because at the end of the day, a learning you should reflect back and see, oh yes, I have become more empowered. I'm empowered because of something that I learned. So when all these 4 comes together, there's continuity, it allows open-ended questions, it's meaningful and manipulatable for you, and then it is empowering, we will have true learning. So that's pretty much an encapsulation of this thing called growth mindset, which recently that superb video from that young boy Faiz came along. But that's the beauty. That's the thing we actually forget at the end of schooling, because that's growth mindset. No, nothing happened. I attempted something. I will grow. I'll get better. Next time it will be nice. It's not that I am not destined to ever build this thing. It is not in my blood. I am not a mathematics person. I am not a science person. No. I am a learner. And I don't know yet. I am not good at it yet. And as long as I am alive, I'll continue to learn and probably possibly get better at it. Or if I'm not continuously getting better, either the teacher is not good, or my learning process is not good, or genuinely I'm losing interest in it. So that's basic mindset of what I wanted to say. So with that, I would also throw you a question here. Is the COVID, is it a crisis or is it an opportunity, right? So we are all told it's a big crisis. Definitely it's a crisis for so many people. We get bombarded with information about how people are genuinely suffering. There is so much of death. But in your self-reflection, all of you are sitting here comfortably watching YouTube or on Zoom, right? So I'm assuming this is not so much of a crisis for you. Things happening in the world is collapsing around us, but at a personal level, we still have the capacity to help in this crisis. So there is an opportunity for us to learn here and help improve the lives of all those people who are suffering. So that's the thought, and that's the pivot that all of you should make at this point. That's the self chat you should have. Millions are suffering. How can I get better? We have this issue of people who have everything are given more and more because that's where the money is, but people who don't have it are genuinely suffering more and more. So that's where I would like to end my speech on entrepreneurship. Please join the club in such a way that you actually make a difference to the lives of people who need a difference in their lives. Not somebody, if somebody has an iPhone, please don't build iPhone XX2. More than that, there are people in Kerala, in Trivandrum, who might use a product or innovation from you that will be helpful. So thanks again for listening. Let's have some questions.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your very amazing sessions. So now I'm opening the dais for question session. So I have received a few questions.
Okay.
So we have 4 to 5 questions, sir. It's okay for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Questions. We are all
so this question is posted by Josh and Samuel. So what is something that you would tell your younger self during engineering? Or what would you tell yourself about during engineering? I hope that's
yes,
question.
it's very clear. Yes. Engineering, I would tell my younger self to cultivate all those friendly relationships, maximize those, and cultivate them in such a way that they are all going to be lifelong friendships for you. Because ultimately, whatever theory we learned, including fundamentals, things are changing. Okay, especially in my case in aerospace, every time the more we measure, the better we measure, we realize that our theoretical foundations are very shaky. So whatever theory you learned, whatever experiment you did, whatever software you know, will very quickly become outdated. Only thing is you will have this learning process with you, but much more than that. There is this group of 18 to 22-year-olds who spend a very high energy, very, what can I say, slightly responsible time where you're free to think of ideas and execute them and challenge the norms and express your opinions without having much worries. Those people, many of them, and hopefully all of them, are going to become leaders in their own selected fields sooner or later. And that's a wonderful group to have. So I tell myself, I still belong to the WhatsApp groups of my undergrad engineering group and my master's group and so on, but not all of those relationships are wonderful. And there are people who are not in that group. So we miss, okay, why did we miss out? We should have tried a bit harder at that point to bring him or her also into the friend circle. We wonder what is happening to them. But I think that's my greatest advice. If you belong to a bunch of people at this point, cultivate it at all cost, because that's going to be the long lasting thing. Okay, I hope I answered that as a very personal question.
Okay. So next question is posted by William George. Okay. And the question is this: clearly you are a vicious reader. Could you please name 3 books that you would suggest to an aspiring entrepreneur?
Okay. Well, very good question. I think my background bookshelf probably triggered that question. Yes, I do read a lot, and I'm very thankful to Modern Book Center and the Trinity College Library for all kinds of books that I get. I try to build a personal collection. 3 books. Very recently, this was asked by Modern Books also. So there also I've recommended 3 books. My all-time favorite, because of my engineering background as well, is the Wright Brothers by David McCullough. The Wright Brothers story, you must, as an engineer or as an entrepreneur, you must read it, because it tells you how a family and 2 brothers actually went about changing the world. And they didn't do it out of thin air. They actually did a lot of background work. And these guys, they were sons of a priest, a reverend, who was actively evangelizing and spreading the word of Christ for his church. But the man allowed the greatest atheistic books also at home and encouraged his sons to read them. So they had a wonderful library. And there is this great letter from, I think it's Wilbur, who wrote to the Smithsonian, the US greatest library and collection at that point, asking them to send him everything they have about flight. It's a beautiful letter. They send me all the material you have about flight, because we are embarking on this journey of looking at how human flight is possible. Second lesson you learn from them, the hardships, right? The 24-hour journey, they had to get to this place called Kitty Hawk from their home state of Ohio to do the testing. Kitty Hawk really, truly God-forsaken place. The only reason they picked it is because the Weather Bureau told them it has steady winds and it has a sandy beach. So whenever crashes happen, they won't have much damage. So they go there, and the only thing there is a few fishermen who help them, and swarms of mosquitoes. So there are wonderful stories of these guys covering everything except their nose, which is completely bitten by mosquitoes at that time, and they're sleeping. So this is how human flight became possible. We have to know the hardships that they went through, and the collaborators and the people who tried to take credit, and how at the end of it, it was not United States that recognized them. US took a long time to accept what these guys had built, because they had no government backing. The R&D funds were going somewhere else. They couldn't believe or want to accept that two brothers did it. So their first sales was in England, and their first biggest experiments were being done in France. So that's a great story for you to have. The other great book that has influenced me, and that I think entrepreneurs will do well, is a book called The Hidden Pleasures of Life. Theodore Seldin, he allows us to look at life in a very interesting light. Each chapter begins with a very nice, unheard of famous personality, like the first woman MBBS doctor from India. In 1900, she went to the US to get trained and so on. But then he goes on to describe how it is that we can learn from other people, what goes on in their heads, and how reflecting on this is very useful for us. The third book, I will tell you something that is very recent. There is a book called Upstream by Dan Heath, which talks about how planning upstream will take care of a lot of damage that can happen downstream, because we all have downstream thinking. Or even an education system, again, it encourages you to learn last week before the exam and using the previous question paper. So what's the point of upstream thinking, right, at any point of time? So Upstream talks about how unexpected consequences will happen. There is also this thing called generational amnesia, which we should all be worried about right now. Right? The flooding season actually worries me, because the last 3 years we have had these heavy rains and flooding. Nature is not at all in a hurry. With the coronavirus, we know that, right? It takes its sweet time to keep spreading horribly. We are so bombarded with information by the minute that we expect that news that corona conquered, vaccine successful. We are just waiting for that news to come. But in the meantime, the virus is spreading just as it spreads. Similarly, 3 years of floods. And now we are looking at another one with heavy rains. So what's the projection for 20 years? So what can we do upstream from here? We are already seeing climate change refugees. What can we do about it? So Upstream is a great book that helps us think about these things with clarity, and that will help you as an entrepreneur as well. Okay, so that I think answers 3 books. A lot of books. Please message me, get my contacts from them, and I'll be happy to give you my book list. The favoritism keeps changing. And if you want to do some physical exercise while you are sitting at home, I recommend Thomas Piketty. Carry this around, and you can hardly read 10 pages a day. It's heavy duty stuff, but it's equivalent to Mahabharata of our times. Very, very detailed analysis of capital and ideology. Very interesting book, but not recommended at anybody below 30 years of age. It's just too much. You have better things to do with your time. Okay, next.
Next question is posted by Joby Johnson. And the question is this: what is the future of space startups in Indian ecosystem?
Okay. We now have finally a framework. InSpace has come, and along with ISRO, we are going to allow private players to take part. Now, everybody is thoroughly inspired and thrilled by what Elon Musk did. But there again, please look at his story about how he went looking for a job at Amazon, did not get it, and then there was PayPal. So the man built himself. And he's a serial entrepreneur who tries many things and sets his vision very, very far ahead. In India, ISRO was the only player. Okay, only now we are allowing private small-scale satellites. We had a few colleges which attempted to make student satellites. So the field is very fresh, and being in Trivandrum, we have IIST as well, which has full-fledged programs. I think space startups, Musk is kind of that blinding light, which is attracting everybody to think about building rockets and going to Mars and so on. Whereas this field of aerospace that's open to startups right now is very, very wide. So if you do an analysis, there is a lot of potential for players who use space data. processed data that is coming from all these satellites, they'll be useful for so many other startups. So, we know the, geospatial data, how it can be used, the mapping systems, the GPS systems, weather data, future predictions and stuff. Let me tell you a couple of interesting examples. There are these companies which manufacture, who create this data called alternate data, okay, for economic prediction. So they use satellite pictures. You must have seen the Beirut blast satellite pictures that have come out. They're very clear. We have very high resolution these days, especially India is a premium player in that market. There are these startups who use satellite data to supply information, very valuable information for business processes, right? For example, Quantil, which is one of my school senior and a Trivandrumite, Abraham Thomas's company. Last year, it was acquired by NASDAQ. Quantil uses quite interesting statistics. For example, if the number of cars that are parked outside, let's say, Malabar, our mall, the Trivandrum Mall, the number of cars and vehicles parked outside it versus the length of a line in a ration shop is giving you vital information about what is the economic health of this city. You can actually use data that is coming from space to make predictions, do investments. For example, you might realize that this CEO chartered a flight and went to this pretty strange island somewhere. At the same time, there was another CEO coming there. So you have this information about possible merger. So who would acquire who? Things like that. So data from space, travel data, the density data, the forestation, deforestation, the reverse switching and so on, these will be very vital. So space data is one area. The second is satellites have things called buses, right? And you can just build experiments which will go in the free buses that ISRO has. And we have this capability of launching 104 at the same time. So there is a lot of real estate in space. So there will be companies which will start selling this kind of electronic real estate that is available, where if you want to take a tiny amount of data or some information that is very valuable for a group of companies, you build that thing into this. So that would be acceptable. So that's a group of companies that will come. Fine parts manufacturing. As the number gets bigger, this will become, best aim would be if this becomes a cottage industry. A lot of people all over India start building space age parts, because one of the big mind shifts that will happen is you need a lot of precision and you need tremendous amount of quality when you build this, which is something that we are lacking. We are supposed to be this whole jugaad people that it'll work once and then it won't work, except in the case of ISRO and our military establishments where we always trust on quality and stuff. So I think it's a very fertile field with a lot of opportunities. Okay, Joseph, next.
So this question is posted by Alan. So you talked about fear of failure. How can you tell me how we can overcome the fear of failure?
Okay. Well, obviously there is no single medicine, which was the whole point of this talk, that there is no remedy. I am not a self-help guru. I won't be writing a book of overcome tomorrow. Arun Jayakumar read my book and next day onwards he had no fear of failure. That's not my purpose at all. The first thing is rename, right? Stop calling it failure. Start looking at it as possibilities which may be highly educational. Okay, so try to compare this with the adventurous things that you have done in college. There might be things where you got encouraged by your friends, which you did, which you never froze because of fear of failure. Maybe getting on stage was a different issue, but that is because so many people are facing you. That's a different psychological matter, other than what is stopping you from trying something. For example, what is stopping you from starting a company? At this point, there should be nothing, because the government of India has made it so easy. You can create this entity practically online. There's no need of any fixed capital like 1 lakh, and all those things have all gone away. Very tiny amount is required. But so what is stopping you from having a company in your own name? So analyze that. I think having a better vocabulary, not the level of Shashi Tharoor, but learning to separate these things, right? Not calling everything as a failure. Which are the possible mistakes or errors that can happen? Or look at all of them as what can we learn from the end of it? That will help you think better. You will need this whole self-reflection thing where you are thinking about why is it that you feel certain way. Recently, I saw a fantastic video from 2017 where one of the, I forgot his name, very aged gentleman, he was talking about how not to get angry ever again. So naturally, I was very interested how not to be angry ever again. So he used this simple vocabulary in it. He said, anger is something I feel when I am provoked. I can't help it. It comes to me naturally, right? The next stage, which is how I react to that particular instinct that has come, I will call it rage, not anger, rage. And the third is if I keep it in my mind and I walk around with it, thinking about it, festering about it, that I will call resentment. So he divided the anger thing into three things. And then he said, anger, I have no power over. You can provoke me, irritate me. Immediately I am angry. But I won't get enraged. That's in my power. That's a different word. It's no longer anger. I'm not powerless before it. Enraged, no reaction. And third, why would I waste my precious brain power and memory with resentment? So I drop the matter there itself. So this allows, and I don't want to use the F word on a public chat, but Vishen Lakhani uses the uneffable as a wonderful word. He says, you be somebody who is uneffable. So that no matter how much provocation comes or how much praise comes, which is the other side, no, where people can be psychophonic, they can tell you things which you start believing in. Just don't let these things affect you, which means you have a big grip on your states of mind. So that I think is the first advice of how to deal with fear of failure.
So next question is posted by Varun. So in my opinion, self-learning or collaborative learning is more important during these uncertain times.
Yes, absolutely. Your opinion is very, very correct. All good learning is self-learning, okay? Because whatever I do or whatever any teacher does really doesn't matter as much as what happens when you are thinking about these things. And collaborative learning, look at what all online learning has provided us. Anytime, anywhere, right? This is a live session and it's much more learning experience for me than any of you, because if it had come recorded and if we could do multiple takes and all, it might have been much more impactful, I think, with background music, epic music and everything coming so that you will be emotionally resonating as well. So that's one. Anytime, anywhere, you can sit and watch this recording anytime, anywhere that's convenient for you. Then you can actively engage online. No? You have the chat window, you type away your question. There is no raising the hand and waiting the teacher to point out to you, then being afraid because the guy next to you is pulling you down. None of that is happening. Then there is formative assessment where we can ask you things, tell you to resubmit so that it helps you with the learning rather than summatively give you a mark and go away. There is feedback anytime, anywhere. You post something on WhatsApp, which is what you do with your professors now. Instant messaging means instantly the message is delivered. You don't have to instantly reply, but take your time, provide the feedback at your convenience. So that can happen at one point. And then collaborative learning is so much more effective in the online world because you can weigh and quantify your opinion. You can express it in beautiful words and make sure that it conveys the right meaning. You can correct it, and you have this multimodal knowledge being created of different things. So that's where collaborative learning. But here the caveat is, please remember this famous adage that you are the average of 5 people you keep closest to yourself. So whoever is in your closest circle, it can be people who are died, because including Mahatma Gandhi, you can keep them very close in your heart. So that is what will determine the quality of the collaboration. So if there is one person who is least bothered about this and simply wants to waste the time, then that could affect the entire group. So when you collaborate, pick the right group, and that is something you can curate and you will get better at it. But yes, you are absolutely right. Online learning has allowed us to be more self-learners and collaborative learners. As such, there will be much better learning 2-3 years down the lane. My hope is there will be a 1-0 model of education where all learning will become one-on-one. You will get everything that you need at your pace, at your own convenience. And 0 will be, it won't cost anything because it will be delivered to you by a company that will steal your data. And they'll take it, and that's what they'll monetize. So there won't be any explicit fee happening. So this model will change very drastically. It's going to happen. Okay.
So next question, that person want to be stay anonymous. Okay, the question is, sir, how do you overcome procrastination?
See, the anonymity is a great positive of our online education. right? Obviously, maybe he knows me or I know him, and probably that would have biased the answer that is coming. Procrastination, I can only talk about my experience, right? I was a very successful procrastinator. I used to be very good at that art in college, and in my PhD allows you to do practice this to the extreme, where you can postpone everything, and there's no last minute, no, because you fix the final defense date and everything. So beautifully done procrastination. Then nowadays I have learned, gotten better. So I use one of this very simple trick called a Segarmic Effect. It's a psychological effect. Segarmic, Zegarnik. She's a psychologist, Russian, I think. So Segarmic Effect was discovered by watching waiters, those who wait tables at hotels, of how they process this phenomenally huge, diverse order that has been given, and then manage to come back, never making an error with it. So they figured out that there is a way that these people encode the information and keep it incomplete. So it's actually like an open tab in their mind, that this is not, till the order is not completed, they feel that it should be kept circulating in their brain. This is something that all of you can use. So when you get an assignment, if you want to do something, just start it and then leave it. Just start it. The moment you get the assignment, just go take a piece of paper. Okay, question 1, write this, and then leave it. Your brain is going to conclude, if it's a normal brain, now I'm just average talking at this point, will keep on telling you that something is incomplete, that itch will be there. Until you complete it, that will continue to, you must be thinking, oh, there will be something. One of you must have thought I should call Arun sir, and then till you didn't complete that call, that will keep on bothering you. Your brain will keep bringing back that reminder. This is a very, very good trick, because if you don't start at all, this will keep pushing back straight to the deadline. But the moment there are a few students I have seen who do this. The moment assignment is given, they'll take the paper and start writing something. Others will feel very bad about it, but this is only for 1 minute. They'll quickly do something and keep it closed. But then they'll remember this, the evening they'll remember, next day they'll remember something needs to be finished about it. I recently wrote a book chapter with a great co-author, Dr. Vinod of LSGD. We did the same thing. The moment they said deadline for submission is July 31st, we opened a Google Doc and both of us typed some random sentences. So that after that, every day after we tell each other good morning or good afternoon, we will invariably ask you, we should do something about that chapter. Yes. So something gets done every day. So that's one trick that you can use.
Okay. So next is a little bit long question.
Okay.
I will just summarize it. Recently, the Google have initiated a Google Career Certificates.
Yes.
Where you don't need any college degree for the jobs.
Yes.
So at the same time, in addition to that question, this is a question. The most studious kids face discrimination and often gets labeled as bookworms.
Yes.
And not creative, which is not always true. So what is your opinion on this subject?
Okay, first of all, let me connect to that, the Google certificate thing, right? It's a purely job-oriented course. The first question that was asked to me is what I will tell my younger self, and I told you it was about the friend circle that was being made there. I don't think in Google certification course, you are going to spend your evenings and nights discussing fantastical things and impossibilities with a bunch of friends. It will be a purely job-oriented, very quickly finished thing, which is very different from learning education as we know the purpose of it and so on. So whether it will completely get rid of BTech, I don't think so, absolutely not. But whether it will allow a few people to quickly take those courses online. So if they are in really great need of having a job, they don't have the luxury of going through the whole process of 4 years of education and so on. And also people can do both. You can have your job-oriented skill set ready and have the certifications also done. But please recognize that education has a lot of other elements also built into it. And it's not just completely certification-based activity. Now, the second question is, yes, somebody else right before that called me a voracious reader instead of calling me a bookworm. Correctly, it should have been so they polished it very nicely, beautifully done. But I remember my juniors in IIT Bombay used to call me something even beyond bookworm, because I used to prefer books which have beautiful photographs and illustrations. So I was even worse. Others were reading quality books. This guy will prefer comic books or books with pictures. Because my problem is, even if you tell me about aerospace, I have never seen or stood in front of a rocket. That happened during my PhD. I went and saw the Saturn V. There was no YouTube at that point. We couldn't quickly press and see a video and understand. So to situate my learning, I needed the drawings. So the other thing about studious people having a bad name, please understand that 10, 20 years down the lane, you will be the biggest star in your group, because you will probably have a very comfortable job, and because you did proper background work when you were in school, college, and therefore everybody would be friendly. These are just nicknames, but look if there is any truth in it. Are you avoiding human contact and preferring books to human beings, and how far is it going to take you? And since all of us sitting here are going to be entrepreneurs, our bread and butter is actually people. What people think, what people want, how to add value to their life. We are not going to sell to books. We are not going to get ideas about innovating from the books. From the books we'll get, but it's probably written by people. So make sure that there is a balance in your life. Don't worry about nicknames will change. You will get worse nicknames, you will get better nicknames. Let people call whatever they call you, right? But like I mentioned, the real learning is in that self-reflection, where you will weigh the opinions and figure out what it is exactly that you are, who you are, and how you can continuously keep changing and learning.
So I think we can take 2 more questions.
Yes. Ask
okay.
it.
So this is a question. Since you are an educator, what are the changes or practical reforms that you will bring in the education system?
Well, I have the power to do that in the Trinity campus. I can try things which are allowed within the time frame and syllabus and everything that is given by KTU. And one of the big changes that's going to happen is we'll have a work as you study program coming in, and classes are supposed to be finished up before the lunch break, so that students can build themselves up later in the day. These are all tremendous changes. One of the big things that we brought, or big change, substantial change that happened at Trinity was way back in 2013, when we figured out that entrepreneurship is not going to work if it is being pushed only on the students. It will be a very slow progress, because we are monkey see, monkey do imitators, and that's where the real learning is. When they are looking at faculty who are entrepreneurs, they learn entrepreneurship. You can't come and teach theory of entrepreneurship. So for me, there are 2 great ways of education, which are from Howard Gardner, the great educator. One is apprentice type training, which is you have to do it with a master or somebody who has more experience than you in it. That's the only way you'll actually learn something, not for writing a part A, part B, part C answers. Actually learn. The second is museum type of learning, where you are exposed to highest quality products and works, which you look at it and then you aspire to gain that quality. How can I make like that? How can I achieve that kind of quality and process? So these 2, I think, from kindergarten level itself, if you can manage, where you actually fall in love with the person who is teaching. It's not about the subject right in the beginning. You really like that person, you want a connection, you want the respect, you want them to look at you very happily, which is why you do things. So that's the beginning, and that should come, which means we should only employ people who genuinely love those subjects to teach them, and not as a part-time gig here and then you're going away something. They should be so passionate that passion should percolate to the students. So that's the biggest change I would like to see, and those guys should be leaders in those fields, those guys and ladies, whoever is teaching, because they love the field so much. They are doing fundamental crack research in it, and they are always up to date with what's going on in the field, so on. So that passion really makes learning a wonderful process. So that's the biggest thing. It shouldn't be like, you call somebody who is not interested in the subject, who got this job because they didn't get any other job, or there is a salary in this job, so I will do this. No, that shouldn't be how education is conducted. I have read that baboons of Hamdaria, okay, you must have seen Nama Korangan. baboons. And in Egyptian culture, they are considered pretty, worshipped. They are worshipped. One of the gods is a baboon. In the baboon, the tribe, there are these few male baboons who decide not to have a family of their own. And these are the baboons who teach the baby baboons. It's a collective responsibility. So where it's not like it's a job that is taken for a salary or something, the whole tribe, look at how evolved that species is, the whole tribe understands that this is a specialized thing. So our future, the next generation, will trust to a few of these guys who have dedicated their life to do this. So that's one transformation we need, which is not going to happen if we are going to keep on stressing on each company will issue its own certification courses, and we are only looking at creating corporate slavery right from the beginning. Just to get in here, I will do this course and so on. So that would be my final answer towards that. I guess, thank you so much for listening to me.
Okay, so is it okay if you can take 2 more questions? I think the questions are flooding the chat box.
Okay, fine. Yeah. No, I don't mind. Till I get hungry, we'll go till I get really hungry, because then I'll be cranky and it won't be baboons. Yeah.
Okay, so please bear with us for some moments.
No.
So
I
the
love
question,
yes.
Yeah. So what are any suggestions on strategies students can adopt in the challenging COVID scenarios to take up their innovations to the next level?
What are the strategies that students can take for?
In this challenging COVID scenarios to take up the innovation to the next level?
Okay, two aspects. Okay, one thing is the student innovators must be aware of the client, the end user of the product. So they have to be very well read or conduct interviews and meet and interact with people for whom they are intending this innovation. They could be patients, they could be doctors, they could be healthcare professionals, it could be teachers. So that's the first step. The second is, please be aware of the quality standards and regulations that are associated with this. We had the market flooded with ventilators and breathing devices and this and that and so on. All these things, if you are going to use on a human being who is in a sickly state, there are regulations and certifications. And there need to be strict quality standards and testing that needs to be done. So these two elements should come. And that's one of the best things about in-space coming and aerospace opening up, because quality standards are very, very strict. And so right from college age, you will realize that whatever you're building, it can't just be jugaad. If it needs to go to the market, if it needs to go to the final person, it needs to go through this whole process of testing. So again, this is not like, okay, sir, I make this design drawing, now I am an innovator certified and go on. You will get marks for some exam, or you will get featured in some magazine, you'll have a photo shoot and everything done. But your ultimate aim should be, people should actually use the thing. And that's when you change the world. So those are the two factors, final user and the quality standards and regulations.
So 2 more questions. Is it necessity to have a clear-cut vision during startup phase? Because people are detracting from those visions during the innovation state. So is it necessary that they should have a clear-cut phase during their startup phase?
Okay. Well, clarity of vision is a very confusing phrase, right? I'm sure Mar Baselios has a vision statement and mission statement. And KTU has vision and mission statement. If you go dig deeper into how those were created, towards the end, it's just a vocabulary exercise about which words are powerful, which are words. I'm sure there'll be AI programs that will generate beautiful, bombastic sounding vision. For me personally, vision is something like you have this one single image, or maybe a small movie in your head about this is the final state that I would like to achieve in terms of this product or project or so on. That's all. Now, like I said in the beginning, this is a journey. So we fine tune throughout. You might have read, that there is a 6-page, I think, treatment of Inception by Christopher Nolan. Nolan's treatment itself is so big. This is where usually people say this one-liner, one-page, or elevator pitch and all. This is what that guy has done. It's so detailed at that point, but it's not a single step thing. Right? He must have, the first thing that came to his mind for Inception might have been a single image. And then you start building on it. So it is the sitting with the process and the consistency. But this is a day-to-day process. Every day you are refining, and then you see how far away from it you are. And maybe your vision is actually substandard with your capacity of doing things, which you will learn. As you go ahead, you realize, okay, why am I aspiring? See, this is that famous thing. No, if you aspire for, let's say, $1 million in funding, all your attempts will be for just 500,000, 700,000, and so on. If you aspire for $10 million funding, you would shoot through $1 million funding so very easily. So fixing something very far, it's the journey that really matters. So it's not about clarity of vision and who can it be satisfied. You have that. It's not about writing this down. It's about having it in your mind and then building the team as you go along, planning based on how to get there. Okay.
So one final question, I promise.
Okay.
Okay. So in this, leadership plays a very important role in every aspects of our life, starting from bureaucrats on in enterprises, on government, everywhere. Leadership plays an important role. But a bad leadership can lead many things into chaos. So, what is your suggestion, or what is your opinion, how to mold a person into a good leader? Or another question, how do you distinguish between, or according to your view and perspective, how do you distinguish between bad leader and good leaders?
Okay. See, leadership is something that people have been thinking about, I guess, right from the beginning of civilization. And we have made it an abstract field now. There are so many books being written about theories of leadership, kind of leadership, this and that. But ultimately, any leadership, anything about leadership that we know or we learn from is by looking at leaders. And each of them are sufficiently unique. So they might have led a strike, they might have led a scientific mission, they might have led a smuggling gang, whatever it is, there was leadership. And there was, because they led a bunch of people. Now, for 95% of our evolution, we were hunter-gatherer tribes. And there was no leadership. There are no leaders in hunter-gatherer tribes. Everybody takes responsibility for everything that happens to the tribe. Everybody learns everything. Everybody is self-directed. And they have this specific culture of making fun of the person who tries to be superior to others. So a leader is very different from a boss. Okay, somebody who thinks I can control other people. So it's about the tribe. It's about how people can be brought together, allowing them each to be a leader in their own right. So you are actually a facilitator. There is this stream of leadership called servant leadership, where you realize that you are serving the needs of the team. So you being there is being the glue, or you are maybe first among equals in terms of expressing opinions, or everybody defers to you because you can articulate it better. But at no point are you to think, and that I think is the theoretical basis of democracy, is that it's a first among equals. We all elected somebody, so that person is the leader. And they are supposed to continuously keep only the rest of the tribe in their mind, the rest of the community, the rest of the people, what's good for the team. However, in entrepreneurship, there is also this element of the entity, the entrepreneurial venture and enterprise itself having its own value. And the beauty of this is, according to the legal system, that is considered a person. It has its own rights and everything. So at one point, as a leader in an entrepreneurial venture, you think about the safety, security of this venture as well. Should we chuck this guy out, fire that person, hire this person, so that it's better for this entity as well. So there are a few hard things which you write. It's a great book by Ben Horowitz, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, where, hiring, firing, you realize that your closest friend, who is also the co-founder, is not working well. How do you lead? And I will suggest one great final book, because I remembered this now. It's called Lead Yourself First. Okay, I hope I'm audible. It's raining very heavily. It's called Lead Yourself First. So please try to get hold of that. It's a very small book. It's about how a leader has that self-communication, so that you lead your life properly. Most of the people get into it though that we can boss around other people. No. You lead yourself first, and then you will realize that people will call you by many, many other things, not just a leader or manager and so on. So that's the way I look at it. Okay. I think rain has brought us a natural conclusion.
Well, I guess that's why I'm finding the question session. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be happy to see those questions. If you can send them to me, maybe we
Yeah,
can
sure.
post it in a website or something whenever I
Yeah.
find time.
We will make arrangements for that. Thank you, sir. So I think we have come to the end of our session. Thank you, sir, for that amazing session. I think we had a very high dosage of knowledge and information for the past 1 hour. I really thank you for your time, and thank you for giving us a harsh reality of life. Thank you for helping us to realize those things. As you said, even if it is a crisis, you should never lose a speck of opportunity in front of you. Grab it, learn from it, and likewise adapt to any kind of situation. Well, we will be marking that quote of yours, and we'll make it as a quote. So I think we have staying the time to wind up our sessions. I thank once again, thank you, sir, for your spending time with us, and thank you all the audience for having seeing this and keeping us active as asking so many questions. Thank you everybody. So, but this is not the end. Tomorrow we shall see. We will get back to you tomorrow, same place, same time, with the same vibe. That's